Okay, so this is just going to be a quick thing about, I think I'm going to title it, Should I Go Into Debt? Usually not. So I have gotten into debt with cards, and that was not a smart thing at all. And I'm not in a lot of debt, thank goodness, but for me it's a lot. And I wish I never got into a lot of it. But I just didn't see any other way to get even like a fraction of what I wanted at the time. And I was tired. I was tired of going without and living a very, very different lifestyle materially than I did. So for those who don't know the backstory, I was born into middle class. And, I had everything I wanted. Not wanted necessarily, but absolutely everything I needed materially. I had a little bit of what I wanted as well. So, it was very safe in that sense. And then things changed for me from about when I was about 23 or so. Financially, things really changed. And I was cut off because I was more financially reliant. Like culturally, where I'm from, it's basically age 18, some even less. Like I've met several individuals who had a, kind of rougher adolescence or life or whatever. And so they had to fend for themselves even before 18 in some significant way. And here I was overwhelmed with, just buying groceries or something. Like just a little bit of financial decisions was just very overwhelming in the beginning, and at times still is. So, I really feel like financially I wasn't given a lot of chances to really interact with money in a real way. I guess you could blame how you were raised or whatever, but what good does that do in a sense? But I think it's good to have some context. You always think about if you became a mom or some kind of role model, what would you do differently? Or just in general with folks in your life, like how would you influence? I don't know. I think I'm gonna make like a version of mac and cheese that let me see here. Am I even? What is it here? Okay. So for me, what I would do is, the good thing about, like, very few reasons why I think it's worth it to go into debt is, I don't even know if you can do this, but for like a used vehicle and just buy it outright. I've been watching some stuff on folks it's unbelievable how much every month just for their installments, so that eventually, like by year or whatever, the idea is that they would cover it all with interest and stuff like that. So I don't know if you can do that with cards, for instance. But I think the smarter way is just knowing, it's just a guess. I don't know a lot about this, but just based on, if I could have a do-over, I think I would have, use the cards and use very small amounts because usually you're not making much when you're first starting your jobs. So I would just use it like I would my normal money and make sure to cover the balance every month. And then I would build kind of history and stuff, and eventually try to get a loan for like a small used car, and then essentially, continue the good financial habits and stuff like that. That seems to be the best way on a low income. Which I don't know how you would even go about trying to find a loan. But I guess a bank, I don't know. Anyway, for me, I just used it on a lot of stuff that, it doesn't really have any financial value. Like, it devalues very quick, clothes, beauty stuff. It is what it is, I guess. I try not to think of that time because it's such a triggering time that reminds me of too much. Definitely a time where I would have liked to do over. Not necessarily that I did a lot of bad stuff during that time, it just was a whirlwind. Things were not handled well. Anyway, let's see what else. I don't even know if this was a good idea, but because I had bought some stuff for security, like locks, cameras, stuff like that, which a lot of that was stolen in the end anyway. Because of my living environment, I didn't feel the most comfortable, so that's what I did. Was that smart? I don't know. I didn't have a vehicle, so I'd have to take lifts, and I know sometimes I would use the card for that. So I'd have to take Uber or Lyfts. That's kind of unavoidable. I would use it for groceries sometimes. I should have just managed with a bit less and not waste so much. I wasted so much food. It was dumb. I would use it to eat out sometimes. That was dumb. Because I couldn't afford it. That's just the truth. Not to the level that I was, eating out sometimes several times a week. No, I couldn't afford it. Maybe subscribe to a few things. I think sometimes I would use the card for that. Basically, when I saw I was running out of my own money, then I would use the cards, which is not smart. If you're running out of money, that should be a hint that, you can't afford what you're doing. You just can't. I guess it shouldn't be a last resort, going to the cards. At that stage, you should just have to be I gotta figure out a way to go without, The cards should be an active financial tool that makes sense.